You see what China just did with banning LGBT groups?
I did not see that.
WeChat, one of their largest, social platforms, banned a bunch of LGBT accounts. So you can see what power does. In the United States, just so happens the left communist faction and the Marxists have a lot of institutional authority. And people need to understand this, that there is a massive infiltration of Marxism in the U.S. government. What they need to understand about critical theory and Marxism is it's the idea of the oppressed and the oppressor.
Right.
That
the system is inherently, bad and evil and must be torn down.
Right. So it's not about like Stalin sneaking into the government. Right. It's about quite literally, there are people in the government. The military's doing it. What did we just have? Was it Lockheed? Where they were like, white people got to recognize them. Raytheon. Yeah. So at our military industrial complex, our government, our police forces, our army are all embracing Marxist theory. They might not know that, but it literally is Marxist
What's
theory.
concerning is if it's oppressor and oppressed, and I'm the oppressed, then I overturn the oppressor, then what does that leave? It leaves me to become the oppressor.
It's all meaningless. It's just power structures. It's an ideology that is basically like, how can I describe it? It's like when you look at an atomic structure and you find the one frail atom that when you flick, the whole thing crumbles.
Sounds like fluorine.
Well, it's
not fluorine. Well,
this was pretty electrostatic or electroelastic.
I mean, this was known as
hydrofluoric acid.
I mean, what you're talking about is the same as what used to be called critical legal theory, which became actually pretty ascended, at Harvard Law School a couple of decades ago. But it's the same exact idea.
Yeah. They want to find a way to demonize a villain, create an other. It's very demagogic, I suppose, and it works.
So what is it?
It's really, really quite smart, because what they'll do is they'll say you're a racist, and quite literally you have like James Lindsay being like, discriminating him on the basis of race is wrong, and they go racist. It's like, okay, so that's what it is. That's what they believe.
If this theory is oppressor and oppressed, and the oppressor, the powerful are oppressive by nature, is that part of this theory?
No. So initially with Marx, you have like the class, right? The bourgeoisie, the proletariat, the working class, the elites, the political class, etc. Then you get critical race theory, where they're like white people. Critical race theory.
So you replace the bourgeoisie with white people, basically, for the race theory. I see.
So now with critical race theory, you have oppressed and oppressors, and the white people are the oppressors, and the people of color are the oppressed.
And is the theory that if you were to remove white people from the equation, that there would no longer be an oppressor?
That white people need to recognize their privilege and give up their power.
This is very disturbing.
It's meaningless because you can't take your skin color off.
Right.
Yeah.
So the idea ultimately is that you will always be an oppressor no matter what.
All of which, of course, is precisely why we have certain laws that just explicitly outlaw this kind of thing. And it's fascinating. It's fascinating to watch some of these state and local governments and corporations attempt to implement laws that are so flatly illegal and contrary to like the civil rights laws that were passed in the 1960s. But and they think that they can just get away with it, and they will unless they're challenged.
Critical race theorists hated civil rights.
Of course.
One of the core tenets of critical race theory is critique of liberalism. They felt that the liberalism
with a little L.
Right.
Yeah.
They thought that the Democrats and desegregation and civil rights was actually depowering their community. They hated it. They were very critical of the Democrats. First of all, you had the Democrats that were pro-segregation, and then all of a sudden the Democrats started to say, okay, well, maybe we'll get behind these bills for a variety of reasons. And there was a letter circulated during the Ferguson riots among activists that argued segregation was a plot by white Democrats to force black people to exist underneath the economics of the white system.
This desegregation?
Yeah, right. So what these activists were saying when they wrote this letter, before the end of segregation, when everything was separated, they said black people had their own wealth, their own neighborhoods, their own communities, their own churches, they had their own Wall Street. Along comes the Democrats and say, hey, we should end segregation. It's wrong. And as soon as that happened, you have these two systems where, yes, you have a lot of very wealthy white people, but the black community was building up their wealth. Now they're forced to exist at a lower economic standard to the white people. What they were basically arguing was, when you had segregation, a black person would run their own restaurant. With the end of segregation, the black person would go work for the white man's restaurant. Now, I think that's a bit silly. You could still have your own restaurant. You can still have your own communities. And I think it's an overtly racist ideology, and the end of segregation was a very, very good thing. But these activists genuinely believe that they believe segregation was it's something they want. I'll put it that way.
Well, they hate Martin Luther King.
But they know that he's popular among liberals, and the liberals are the ones they can exploit. So they say things like, "Yay, Dr. King," and I always say this to my woke friends. Martin Luther King Jr. Dr. King, he said, "I have a dream that one day my 4 little children will be judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character." How are you fulfilling Dr. King's dream?
Exactly.
And they say,
Exactly.
"You don't even know what he was about." I go, "Okay, I guess. I don't know. He said those things." So do you think that allowing schools to implement race-based discrimination is helping Dr. King's dream or hurting it?
Wow.
Now hold
the
on.
The path is long. Let's find out.
You're getting a lot of leftists who have no problem criticizing him because it's becoming so prominent and prevalent that they're now much more free to do so. So when we talked about this book that's being taught in school, it's called Not My Idea. It's a children's book where a little white girl is exposed to the truth by her teachers about race. And she's angry with her mom who lied to her. And she screams, "I'm tired of you lying to me, Mom. Tell me the truth. I see race." And the mom says, "Oh, no." Then there's a whiteness contract with a white hand reaching out in a devil's tail. Yeah, white people are the devil, they say.
You got to see this book, John.
They're teaching this to children in dozens of schools, but in many of these schools, once they get to that portion where it shows the white person as the devil, they stop. They don't show it, and they say, "You can read the rest of the book on your own." You know why? It's the insidious nature. If they come out right now and tell children white people are the devil, their parents will flip out. But if they give them the beginning of the book, "See, police brutality is wrong. They were lying to you," these liberals might be like, "Huh, okay." They have to do it slowly. It's insidious. These liberals are easy to exploit because they look at something and they say, "That's unfair." They've got to do it slowly. Once enough liberals support this book, then they'll turn the last page and say, "White people are the devil." And then these people go, "Oh, yeah."
Well, I think these parents and these moms are starting to stand up in these school board meetings, which I think is a very good thing. I think when I was driving down here, I went through Loudoun County, right?
It's right nearby.
Loudoun, which is of course where they wanted to shut down debate, and then they dragged out the sheriff's deputies dragged out the parents who wanted to actually finish the period of debate that was called for, right? But look. The way that these things are going to turn around is that people who love this country and moms at a certain point will protect their kids, but these folks are going to start running for the school board, and they're going to start running for local offices, and good people have to get in politics and run for office, because that's where the real power is. That's where the real change comes from, is where you can actually take your pen and you can sign a piece of legislation, and I think that's starting to happen. It certainly feels like it's starting to happen.
I'm starting to think that this 100-year experiment of public school systems is showing its cracks, its flaws, and the dangers of putting your kids in a foreign environment and letting things happen to them.
Strangers can tell your kids
I had
whatever.
So many bad teachers.
Yeah.
Just as awful.
Terrible, old, angry,
Evil.
worthless, useless. I'm going to say the worst stuff. No, they're probably fine people, but just not able to handle a group of 30 kids at a time. It was terrible.
Yeah, I mean, it's just. I mean, there are states like I suppose New York and California come to mind, where the public education, the public school system seem to be disastrous, and it's hard to know what to do. I mean, I think the solution is probably multifaceted. I mean, it involves some degree of school choice. It involves some degree of getting the funds actually where they need to be to make sure that you can reduce class sizes and get good teachers in there. But yeah, I mean, we cannot have a system in this country where and I'm very fortunate that my kids go to an amazing private school, but you cannot have a system where a certain number of elite kids have teachers who are kindergarten teachers with PhDs, and they have an amazing experience, and then you have the masses of people whose kids are not only in physical danger but they're being indoctrinated like this. I mean,
voucher program.
Yeah, look, I'm a huge believer in choice and competition, and so school choice and voucher programs and competition, generally speaking, seem to me to be very good ideas. I think the healthcare system also needs more competition and whatnot. I think the trick becomes exactly how to implement these things. So that it's actually effective. But what we have right now in these big blue states and these cities it's just not tenable. So something else has to be
trash.
Well, it's just, it's
the cities themselves, man. I'm just I am anti-city right now.
It's not a good time to be in a big city.
We were outside in the front today with Andy. Andy is a guy he's going to be running all the rec area stuff. He's going to be running the grind bar, and we're going to be setting up events and stuff. So we were standing in the front, and we were trying to plan out so where do we build the mega ramp? Like where do we put the giant launch for the skate park? And it's not about, look, I understand not everybody can go out and buy materials for a skate park, but you have space. Right. You can walk outside with your friends and just look at the grass and say, what can we do here? What activities should we have? In these cities, it's brutal, man. You live in a cubicle.
Yeah. Your
kids are in a crammed school environment. Teachers don't even know their name. Teachers like, who is this? You're in my class. Miss Wilson, I've been in your class for all year. Huh. I can't even tell. I got too many kids. Yeah. I don't want to live in that.
It's a different,
it's awful.
Different type of versatility.
No, and I think that could, look, I think that you're going to have people who want to live a certain way and to believe in certain things are going to start self-selecting out of the cities and to be, in places that seem safer and in which, they're not attacked for having a MAGA hat on. I think that, and obviously with COVID and the way folks have gotten more used to working remotely, I think it's going to accelerate that trend, and that could lead to further, division in the country because I think we're going to have people sort of segregating themselves away from each other because there's just too much volatility right now.
Yeah, we're going to go tomorrow, see a movie, hang out, have some candy and popcorn. Then we're going to just relax and enjoy a Saturday. We've been filming it. We make a vlog out of it. We're going to start ramping up doing daily vlogs and everything. But the point is, there's got to be something else to kind of clear your mind and help you focus on other things.
I do music because I want to scream. When I want to exert my rage on someone, I just got to turn it into song. I got to scream with my body's full vigor. And it's a bit of
bad for your vocal cords.
Yeah, but it's good for my mind.
Play the drums, bro.
And it doesn't hurt other people because taking it out on someone else is terrible.
You can't scream in a city, though.
They do it online in their text, and it doesn't.
Yeah,
you can kind of tell when they're reeing in their text.
But if you live in a city, it's hard
to scream in the city.
I lived in Brooklyn. Can't have drums. Can't play guitar. You can play guitar, but it's within certain hours because you hear the pounding on the floor. Then
and unless you're really good, your neighbors are going to complain.
Yeah, they're going to complain no matter what.
They don't always complain if you're really good.
I lived in an apartment where someone in the building worked graveyard shift, and they're always it's 5 p.m. and they're like, "Excuse me, I understand, but look, man, I gotta sleep," and we're we'll do our best because we're trying to be nice. It's brutal.
I listened to Hardcore History and listen to the stories about how Alexander the Great's mom was super difficult sometimes, and then after he died from partying too hard, there was literally 40 years of warfare among his generals to try to sort things out, which which makes you feel like so it could be worse.
I heard that he was poisoned. Have you heard that theory?
Oh. Well, for sure, that's a major theory. I don't think anybody knows for sure.
I would be surprised if he wasn't at this point.
He had put together the world, the largest empire that the world had seen at that point. And so, so there was a lot of folks with a lot of, motivations to do such a thing. Clearly he seemed to, like to have a good time as well. And so who knows for sure, with respect to the amount of alcohol that, he was, supposed to consume. But no, I would say that the consensus among serious historians is that yes, he was assassinated.
He had led all his generals across, Persia and was conquering the world, and they were like, okay, we did it. Well, Alex, can we go home now and enjoy?
They got basically halfway through India, and they're kind of looking around at the Himalayan mountains and the snow, and they're like, okay, seriously, what's the point?
My assumption was he was like, we're gonna go forever, and they were like, no, we have to stop him. One of his generals was like, he's gone too far.
Well, he's one of the most fascinating personalities in history, and he had an insatiable appetite to conquer everything. He was tutored from a young age by Aristotle. His father was one of the most powerful figures of his age that handed him a Ferrari of an army that was tailor made to take over Persia, essentially. And his mother is one of the most powerful, fascinating, manipulative female characters in the ancient period for sure. And so, the Alexander the Great story is a good one.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL. Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you want exclusive members-only content, segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.